This is a message to all my supporters of this podcast. I'm introducing a new supporters program. You can contribute a small amount as a one-off payment to show your love for this podcast. Thank you in advance for all your contributions. This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, created and hosted by Mark Hayward. I am a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. This podcast will help and support you with new ideas about business. These are my thoughts, ideas, and comments. Today I'm going to talk to you about leadership styles, something I have spoken a couple of times and referenced that I was going to do a podcast about it, and I thought it was a good time to be able to share with you my ideas and some of my thoughts about different leadership styles. So hopefully there are many different styles. I've just taken half a dozen of them to give you some insight. Hopefully you'll be able to spot yourself, spot other people, and ways that you can work with those people. Thank you very much. Hi everyone, this is Mark Hayward from the Absolute Business Mindset podcast. Today I'm going to talk to you about different leadership styles, and it's been something I've been meaning to speak to you about for some time, but I thought I would talk about different styles. So there's going to be a democratic, there's going to be autocratic, laissez-faire, strategic, transformational, transactional, coach style, and bureaucratic. So this is just some of my ideas on the different types of leaders that there are. Right, so what I want to talk about is, so the first one is democratic. Okay, so democratic leader. So my example is Tony Blair from the UK government in the 90s. So for me, a democratic leader is someone that listens to everyone and make sure that he's able to build consensus. The whole idea of having a democratic leader is that, and they don't actually have to be political, they can be democratic in the sense of finding that the importance of what the general view of the team is incredibly important, and there are many different types and people that have been democratic leaders. They are inclusive, sometimes slow decision makers, because they sometimes want to build a consensus and build up a group of believers and supporters. So often it's not always decisive action, but once they get the validation, they are very strong-willed and very pushed through their agenda. So these types of people, as I said, they listen to other people's views. They try and balance out the extremes and sit somewhere in the middle, and they try to make a leadership style which is strong, but listens as well to their employees as well. So that's an interesting one. So the next one I'm going to talk about is the autocratic. So any sort of leader that is a like fascist leader, like Hitler or Mussolini or Stalin to a point. He was autocratic, definitely. These type of characters, they're very controlling. They want everything fed through themselves, and they're very closed to other people's views. Often they are more important for their own views than anyone else's, and often can be quite aggressive to people that oppose them. The positive side is they're decisive as a decision maker. That has been spoken about many times, how autocratic leaders are decisive, and once they start a course, they will carry it on. They're very self-centered. It's all about themselves. They think they're the most important thing, and they believe that they're the most important thing and the most important person to make decisions. They often don't build very good or don't build effective teams because everything is built around them and their decision making. Often any sort of opposition is removed, and often they don't really want a team around them to make decisions. They just want to get the information and then for them to make the decision. And very much they're distant from the team. They're not inclusive. They do not want to hear other people's opinions, especially opposing ones. So laissez-faire attitude or style of leadership. So I've actually put as David Cameron. Now this might not fit perfectly with everyone, but go with me on this. So a laissez-faire believes in devolved leadership. They are very much the leader, but they give. They give responsibilities to other people and expect them to be able to do a good job. They're not necessarily always in the grain of the detail. They just want to be able to understand and then let other people make decisions. They let other people drive the agenda, and they always make the decision, but it's always very much other people have to take their responsibilities of this. Now, it can grow a team because it gives people responsibilities, which can be good, but it's not always the best when you need to make a decision quickly or decisively. I don't think there's that many people who are laissez-faire leaders in companies. I don't think that really works because there has to be, to an extent, the buck has to stop somewhere. They can often lose control of situations. So, from the example of David Cameron, the referendum on Europe, he definitely didn't want to get out of Europe, but he felt he needed to let the people decide, devolving the responsibility onto someone else, not himself. And there's no accountability with these leaders. So he left, and there was a lot of criticism about it, but essentially he left with him shrugging his shoulders, go, well, I let other people decide. A referendum was the right option, and therefore I did the best that I could. That isn't always the most effective form of government or as a leader in a business. The next one is strategic. So strategic, I've given an example, and some of these are politicians because it's very easy because they're very noticeable and very easy to be able to pinpoint leaders. But I do give other examples of leaders. So Boris Johnson is a strategic leader. So he only really cares about high-level considerations. He cares nothing about the detail of these situations. He wants to know the top level and then make a decision. Sometimes that can build a team, but you kind of really need to have a good set of people around you that are doing the detail. So it's kind of like a chairman of a board is how I've given it. So I think they kind of feel that they only really need to know the top level because other people will be able to make those recommendations. It's also he needs great managers below him, and he's also very reliant on others. Because you're such a strategic thinker, like blue sky thinking was what was a massive buzzword in the 90s for this type of strategic leadership and analysis. They are very reliant on others. They really do need other people to step up and play the role on the government decisions and things. So they can be very good decision makers because they're quite decisive. Because they're only really bothered about the high level detail. They might make wrong decisions, but they're very good decision makers because they're very much to the point and they don't mess around. But again, it's reliant on others to know the details to be able to make it successful. The next type of leader is a transformational leader. So I've given Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, are both two people who I would describe as transformational. So they build a very strong team dynamic, all centered around that person, but they will do these people that work for these people will do anything for the leader. So people will go to war for Elon Musk. They will go to war for Steve Jobs to be able to have a successful company. They often transform, and for the word, they transform businesses and industries because they look outside the box and they always pushing the boundaries of what is possible. So these guys are very, very influential and very, very strong characters. Often they can burn teams out. So people work so hard and will work all the hours to be able to deliver the the iPod, the iPad, or whether it's from Musk in the Tesla or anything. They're very inspiring. They very much demanding as well. I find they are often very demanding leaders who want to have great products, great services, and deliver outside of the box. And they bring a groundswell of people around them to be able to deliver that. Often they are great men, as in that they make huge differences to society and to business. Often they've got many flaws. Often there are, with the Steve Jobs idea, it was hints of bullying and demanding too much from his people. Elon Musk is always getting himself into sticky binds, whether it's on Twitter or whatever. So they often are people with deep flaws, many divorces, or failed relationships with children and with their partners. The next one is transactional. So I've given Bill Gates as my example here. But I think there are a lot of business leaders which are transactional. So you deliver a project, you get a pay, and you might get a good bonus because you've delivered on time. It's not it's uninspiring. It's not very inspiring. But they employ people who are very, very good, and they reward them well. But there's a lack of inspiration there, because literally they're saying you're doing this because the money that I'm paying you. I've got a note here that they're not necessarily great leaders. But they have consistent delivery over a long period of time. So Bill Gates was not really the most inspiring. He was always a little bit socially awkward and a little bit uncomfortable. Obviously, a great man to be able to deliver the results that he had for Microsoft, and now he's gone on to his philanthropic business. He's just done amazing things, but that's not by inspiring. It's by understanding the detail and understanding these people that he's got around him. There isn't necessarily a great need to have a great team ethic, but the just is working on delivering on a consistent manner and being able to achieve great things through very small iterations. I would say that this is probably your boss. Most bosses are transactional. I think especially corporates build leaders that are transactional rather than necessarily being hugely inspiring. So I struggled with my example for a coaching style of leadership. I've actually given Arsene Wenger. Now, some of you guys might not know who Arsene Wenger is. He was a manager of Arsenal Football Club for about 20 years. He was the manager that became a coach, and really moved the game of football onto more of a coaching style. So he's very devolved. He gives players responsibilities. You will have face-to-face meetings with your leader if they're a coaching style. It's all about bringing employees with the leader on the journey. They're very, very face-to-face touch points, want to understand how their employees are developing and how they're coming along. The door is always open. It's sort of methodology. There's a lot of transactional leaders that say my door's always open, but they never really want to have that touch point, where a devolved coaching style want to be able to have people involved all the time and give responsibility. It's a very people-focused type of leader. Sometimes they're not the best on financials, but more focused on developing their people, building up a strong network of people around them, whether it's managers, whether it's other leaders in the business, and very, very team-focused. So that's an interesting one. I struggled with the example because I couldn't think of someone in business that I really felt was a coach. There's the $1 Trillion Man book. I can't remember what the coach was called, who was very, very focused on coaching, but wasn't a leader per se, was more of a coach. But I think Arsene Wenger fits the bill very well. And then the last one I want to talk about is bureaucratic. So my example here is any civil service leader. So that is, if you don't understand civil service, they are the people that work for the government. They are purely independent people that work for the government on delivering, implementing policies rather than the actual decision makers who are the politicians. So these types of leaders are very process driven. So they will build processes and embed them and expect them to be supported by their employees. They believe in the system that they've created, so it's incredibly important for them to be able to build a set of beliefs, a set of processes to be able to work through. It's not very people focused. It's very much on the people are required to be able to deliver, but it's very much on being able to build up a set of policies, a set of decisions, and it's more important than that, than the actual people. On a business sense, it's quite ineffective. Bureaucracy is one of the killers of business, and that's why I've given an example of civil service who are not business focused at all. They're sometimes not very pragmatic. They say this is the way things have been done and this is the way that we've been doing it. So there's policies in government that have been built up over 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and that is their process and that is how they deliver on it. So it's incredibly important for them to have that bedrock of how things have been done previously, and that's how we're going to deliver going forward. So I've given you my sort of breakdown on a bunch of leadership styles. What leadership style are you? Please do drop me a message if there's a particular leadership style which you think I've missed, or you'd like me to do some more analysis on and understand and share with you. Be happy to do that. They, I think, are a good cross-reference of different types of people: business, sport, bureaucracy, sort of government, and politicians. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. Hopefully you found that interesting, because I think leadership style is really important. You need to be able to build your leadership style and make it work and work out what is best for you and what's best for the team. So hopefully you've found not everyone's going to be a Steve Jobs or an Elon Musk. Hopefully not everyone is going to be transactional, but there's lots of different styles. There's many more styles of leadership beyond these ones that I've given you. So please do check them out online. Hopefully you will see some benefit from understanding different leadership styles. Thank you very much. I've really appreciated your time. Hopefully you have gained something from that. And I will speak to you all soon.